In 1980, 3 siblings were each given $1,000 as part of inheritance from a deceased uncle. Each month, he would add $62.50 to the account, or $750 per year. The sister, Bernice, invested her $1,000 in various money market accounts and earned 12% interest each year, compounded annually. Carl, the youngest, put his money into technology stocks. Their value climbed according to a parabolic curve until it peaked at $20,600 in 1994. By 2008, the stocks had fallen back to the original value of $1,000. First thing we need to decide is whose curve is whose. Which curve over here matches with the words over here? What? The parabola is who? Carl? Why do you think Carl is the parabola? It goes up and goes back down. That's like the best way, right? According to the graphs that are here. Carl actually has a secret because it actually says a parabolic curve in his words, right? So it's kind of a given that it's a parabola, but I'm glad that you know that it goes up and goes back down, and that's what makes it a parabola, right? Okay. What else do you know? You think so? Why do you think that? $12% each year, but 12% each year is more than $1,000 each year, right? Because if you take 12% of 1,000, that's the first year, but you already have that much extra money, and when you take 12% of that, that's going to be more. So that can't be linear, right? Which one was going to be the line? Alan. Why is Alan going to be the line? He's putting in exactly the same amount per month or per year. Okay? Which leaves to be what? Exponential. Do you see why I was a little disappointed that you didn't know that? Because that's what we literally just finished, right? It's the exponential, right? Is it what kind of exponential is it? Growth. Okay. Next thing we need to do is actually come up with equations for each one of these. Which of the equations do you think is going to be the easiest to come up with? Most people think it's the linear one, right? Okay, what do we know about the linear function? Started off with 1,000, and then so I see your way of thinking. Can you pause that way of thinking for just a second? Let me read some directions for you. Here, X is the time in years since 1980. Yes. Do you see why it's 750X and not 6250X? Okay, because we're talking about the change in the years, and if we're talking about change in the years, that's the 750. The 6250 is or 6250 is per month, right? Okay. All right, so we have Alan's equation. Which one do you think is the next easiest one to get? Most people think it's Bernice, typically because we just finished studying exponential curves, right? Is there an equation, I don't know, on the board somewhere that could help us? Oh yeah, over there. Okay, left one or right one? Because it's compounding annually, right? If it's compounding annually, what's my n in that formula? How many times per year is annually? once. So n is 1. So I have what I started with, which is 1,000 times 1 plus, what's the rate? 0.12. It would be divided by 1, but I've already know that that's just itself, right? Raised to 1 times the x, which is just x. Now the last one is number 1, the one that's been the longest since we've dealt with. So is it okay if I remind you how to do that? I'd like to show you 2 different ways, okay? But first I need to know, let's see. In order to write the equation of a parabola from a sentence like this, I need to know how many points. How many points are required for a parabola? How many points are required for a line? 2. So how many are required for a parabola? 3, right? Okay, so what are my 3 points that I need for this parabola? Remember, x is the time in years, and y is going to be the total amount of money, right? Okay, so what do we know about Carl? How much money did he have in 1980? 1,000, right? He started with $1,000. So if x is the time in years since 1980, what's x? 0 and 1,000, right? Well, what else do they tell us about Carl? So in 1994, he had $20,600. So what's x in 1990? Oh, yeah, absolutely, 14, right? Because that's 14 years since 1980. And he had $20,600. And what else do they tell us? Okay, so what's my third point? 28, 1,000. Okay, like I said, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to get this equation. You ready? The first way is the way that we talked about when we were dealing with, oh, I just accidentally turned my calculator off. So smart. When we were dealing with matrices. Do you remember dealing with matrices? Okay. Just going to remind you, first of all, that a parabola is ax squared plus bx plus c equals y. Do you remember that? Okay. So I'm going to start a new document. No, I don't want to save my, hold on, and I'm going to start a calculator. Okay. Now, just for the record, last period asked me if I would type all these steps out for you and upload it as a document to Google Classroom. I will do that sometime this afternoon. Okay. So, I need to say menu, matrix, reduced row echelon form. Everybody with me? Menu, matrix, create a matrix. Now this matrix, because we have 3 points, we're going to have a 3 by 4 matrix. You okay with that? 3 by 4 matrix. Okay, so now we need to remember what the general form is and look at our first point. 0, 1,000. X is 0, y is 1,000, right? So in this first equation, I have to square x. So what is 0 squared? 0. Then the next thing I have to do is just enter x. So 0. This one, is there an x here at all? God bless you. No, so I'm always going to put a 1. And then what is the y value for my first point? 1,000. My second point.